When computing technology first emerged during World War II, women made up the majority of the workforce. However, the number of women in computing has steadily declined within the past few decades. In fact, only 18% of computer science degrees in 2018 were awarded to women. A similar trend is being observed in the computer science subfield of artificial intelligence, also known as AI, as a 2018 report published by the World Economic Forum found that only 22% of AI professionals globally were females, and even fewer were racial minorities. It's clear that female and racial minority involvement in AI and CS is declining, and a study on women in STEM found the reason for decreased female and racial minority involvement. The study found that 2/3 of elementary school aged girls indicated an interest in STEM. However, that number decreased drastically by the time the girls were in middle school. A similar trend was observed in minority students, as a study published in the Educational Researcher found that minority students were dropping out of STEM majors in college at a higher rate than their peers. In other words, males are encouraged to pursue STEM fields, while girls and racial minorities are not. And this has led to the current disparity in AI. A lack of gender and racial diversity in AI means biases are unknowingly coded into AI algorithms. A report published by UNESCO found how Siri, Apple's voice assistant, responded to verbally abusive phrases with, "I'd blush if I could." UNESCO highlighted how this flirty response to verbal abuse is incredibly dangerous, as it perpetuates the stereotype that women will submit to or even enjoy verbal abuse. Similarly, in 2015, Google Photos' AI algorithm categorized 2 African American males as gorillas. Implicit biases such as these were inadvertently included into AI algorithms because the engineers building these algorithms were mainly white males, clearly highlighting why it's integral that women and racial minorities claim their seat at the table. Siri's sexism and Google's racism are just 2 of the hundreds of examples of bias present in AI, both hidden and known. And while these examples are certainly infuriating, future biases could be even more dangerous. Imagine if an AI algorithm was responsible for diagnosing cancer, but it had never been trained on people that looked like you. Its diagnosis wouldn't be very accurate, and it would put your life at risk. By encouraging more women and racial minorities to enter the field of AI, we can assemble more diverse data sets and reduce implicit biases. A data set is what an AI algorithm learns from. Good data, which is also more diverse data, leads to more accurate results. But how do we make our data more diverse? Quoting a UNESCO report, we must ensure equitable, inclusive, and high-quality digital skills education and training to open pathways to further learning and skills development. In other words, girls and racial minorities are being left behind when it comes to AI education, and this trend needs to stop if we want to increase diversity in the field. AI is already one of the building blocks of the future, and if that building block is rooted in implicit gender and racial bias, then our future will be too. To combat this lack of diversity, we must employ a multi-pronged approach to ensure that girls and racial minorities are introduced to AI at a young age. As a student myself, I know this approach works. Although I wasn't exposed to AI at a young age, my parents instilled in me a love of STEM through fun chemistry experiments and trips to the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago for cow eye dissections. After being introduced to AI, I was fortunate enough to receive guidance and advice from multiple female role models in the field. Not only did they teach me technical skills, but they showed me that it's possible to succeed as a female in a male-dominated field. They introduced me to their colleagues at Google and Facebook so I could learn how AI is used in industry, and they recommended scholarships and grants that I could apply for as a female in tech. Learning AI was simultaneously challenging and incredibly rewarding. There were many times when I felt frustrated after not being able to fix an error in my code, but there were also so many times when I was amazed by the fact that I, somebody who didn't have a background in cancer research or neuroradiology, could be doing research that could lead to potential breakthroughs in these fields. Thanks to the guidance and support of my mentors, I was able to learn about AI, and now I made it my mission to help other girls and minorities do the same. As such, I've started an international initiative designed to teach students of all genders, backgrounds, and ages about AI. I designed fun workshops, school curriculums, and short YouTube videos that teach the fundamentals of AI and Python coding to students as young as 9 years old. I also started a speaker series to allow students to make their first professional connections and find mentors in a safe space. And although my efforts have helped more than 7,500 students in over 48 US states and 58 countries learn about AI so far, I know my individual efforts won't be enough. Within the next 5 years, I hope to expand my efforts to teach students in public school systems in Chicago, my hometown, the entire US, and even the entire world. I want to educate driven young girls in national organizations like Girl Scouts and partner with global educational providers like Discovery Education and Khan Academy to create an open-sourced AI curriculum that anyone can easily access and use. With our school curriculums, we hope that we will instill in students the confidence and desire to learn about how AI affects the world around them. And we hope that these students will continue participating in the AInspire community through workshops, hackathons, and also the Snapshot competition, so that eventually they too will be able to pursue a career in AI or internships in AI. I also hope to launch a mentorship program to link students in underserved areas, such as slums in Mumbai or Africa, to mentors in large technology companies like Uber and Google and Facebook, so that these students will be able to benefit from high quality AI education, as well as learn from experience in an internship at one of these companies. Hopefully, this program will result in giving these students role models to see that they too can become innovators in the AI field, increase diversity in AI, and provide much needed social mobility to these families through the gift of education. I know my goal to teach every single student in the world about AI is a moonshot, but it's a goal that I'm willing to dedicate my life to pursuing. AI empowers people who aren't experts in fields like cancer research or neuroradiology to make revolutionary breakthroughs in these fields. I want to be the person who revolutionizes AI education so that I can empower people of all ages to understand and innovate with AI. AI education is becoming as much a right and necessity as reading and writing education. In order to understand the world around them, people must understand how AI works, and I want to give them this knowledge. So, what can you do? I hope my story as a young female person of color in AI will inspire all of you as tech professionals to mentor and guide other young students to learn about this powerful technology. AI is building the future, and women and racial minorities must have a say in designing this future. We must work together to give people of all genders, backgrounds, and ages the tools to not only succeed in, but to also thrive, innovate, and create in an AI-centric world. If you want to learn more about my work and my mission, please visit www.AInspire.org.